So I'm going to throw another example of utilizing the HLOOKUP function inside of Excel. Now I'm adding this one to the end of this section because we're not only going to use the HLOOKUP, but we're also going to use the match function, and we're going to put them together. And I'm also going to throw another function in there. We haven't gotten to this one just yet. You're actually going to see it much more in depth later on in the course. I'm going to throw in the left function as well. So there's actually going to be 3 different levels of nesting that are taking place inside of this function. Now, I'm adding this one in here because it's a question that I've been getting a lot inside the Q&A section of this course. Hey, I've created the HLOOKUP. It looks great, but when I copy that formula down, it's not giving me the proper results. I love the HLOOKUP, but it's got one argument side of it that tends to be static and something that you have to update if you copy the formula. Take a look. So I'm back on the HLOOKUP function worksheet. Hopefully you created and you completed this one. If not, you got at least the first one in there. Now if I look at that function, I'm going to double click the 150. This is cell B5. We've got the HLOOKUP. So first thing it wants to know is the lookup value. That's cell B3. That's absolute. We never want that to change. Then we got the lookup array, essentially where you're going to search. This is A2 to G5. That's great. That's on the other sheet. Let's just hop over there really quick. A2 to G5. Great. The next thing it wants to know is the row index num. That's this guy right here, the number 2. That tells us that when the HLOOKUP comes over here, goes through A2 to G2, it finds XP200, it says, oh, you want to return row number 2's value back, right? Row number 2 to this list. Row number 1, 2, right? Now, that's actually, it's great, but it's actually can be a problem. Because if I take that formula and I drag it down thinking I'm just going to copy that formula, I got 150s throughout. Because this formula is still using the number 2. I would have to update that to number 3, and then I get the proper results. Go to this formula, update this one to number 4, and it gives me the proper results. Because remember, we have to specify the row that we want to return back to. Now, what I want to do here is I want to make this more dynamic. I want to make sure that I create the formula once, right here. Create it once, done, copy it down, and it automatically finds the proper warehouse row. I essentially want to match this text right here, warehouse 1, warehouse 2, warehouse 3, and I want to match that to the specific row over here. Now, something to keep in mind, on our HLOOKUP worksheet, it's called warehouse inventory, or warehouse 1 inventory, warehouse 2 inventory. So they tacked on this inventory keyword. On the master inventory list, it doesn't say inventory. It just says warehouse 1, warehouse 2, warehouse 3. So that's something we need to be aware of. But let's see how we can bring the HLOOKUP and the match together to make this more dynamic. Watch this. Now, there's going to be a lot of moving parts here. This is a good video to pause and look at the code, look at the formula, make sure that you're understanding what's happening there. Rewind, right? Practice, get in there, try it out yourself. That's going to be the best. So I'm going to get rid of these two. I'm going to go back to the original formula, give that a double click. Now the number 2 is the problem, right? I'm going to delete the number 2. I'm going to bring in the match function. Now remember, the match function takes a value, takes something from you as the user, and goes and finds it within a range of data and returns its position, its numeric position back to you. Remember, the index num is a number. It wants to know which row. Is it row number 2? Is it row number 3? Is it row number 4? That's really what the match function is going to do for us. Okay, so I'm going to bring in match. What do I want to find? What's the lookup value? Well, it's actually the contents of cell A5. But remember, A5 contains the word inventory, which the other worksheet does not. So here, rather than just A5, I'm going to bring in left. the left function, and like I said, we're going to talk about left much more in depth later on, but the left function will take a cell, and then it wants to know how many characters you want from the left-hand side of that cell. So in this case, I bring in left, open parentheses, A5 is the cell that I want to get a value from. Then I'm going to do comma, and I want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 characters, because I don't want the space or inventory or the colon. So left, open paren, A5, comma, 11, close parentheses. So that's the value that I want to search for. Now, the next thing that I want to get to, I'm going to do a comma, is the lookup array. Where do we want to search for that value? Here, I'm going to go to master inventory list, and I'm going to grab A2 to A5. And I'm going to make that absolute. I'm going to hit the F4 key. That'll put in the $signs for me. Now one more. I'm going to do comma. The last thing it wants to know is the match type. I want to find the exact match, so I'll give that a double click. And I'm going to close the parentheses. I'm now done with the match function. This guy right here is all done. That just replaced the number 2 inside of the HLOOKUP function. There it is right there. You can pause the video, take a look at it, make sure you get that parentheses inside there as well at the closing. But that's it. I'll hit my enter key. There's my 150, XP 200 for warehouse 1. There's 200 for warehouse 1 is 150. And if I now copy that down, I've got the proper results. No longer am I relying on a hard-coded value that I have to update, but I'm using the match function nested within the HLOOKUP and a little bit of magic from the left to do it all for me. Try this one out. Super slick. Again, I get questions on it all the time. You learn something like this, you're creating your formulas that much more dynamic, and it's going to do that much more work for you.